Greetings, I'm Dr. Nielsen, founder of the Intense Cleanse and founder of Nielsen Holistic. Very glad to have you on this training video. Welcome, I'm really excited. We're going to be learning about toxins and why we become toxic, some of the things that make us toxic, and then I also want to talk a little bit about the upcoming seminar on January 4th and 5th. So let's break right into the training. As many of you know, my story, I was 30 pounds overweight. I was able to get off about 20 pounds and then I hit a wall. And the big reason why is because I was toxic. And most of you know that I've started a product called Intense Cleanse, where we actually go through and cleanse the body, both the mind and the body. Well, upcoming we're going to be doing the Mind Body Makeover Seminar, which is going to be super excited. And so I just wanted to go through a couple of things that actually make us toxic on the inside and the outside. So I've created a little abbreviation for these. And the first, we'll just jump right into training. The first thing that causes us to be toxic would be heavy metals. And you'll be learning as I go through Me, Can, Me, and then we'll talk about how we get those. So metals, some things like mercury, cadmium, nickel, a lot of the things that are going into our groundwater. But the heavy metals, what they do is they actually cause like a wrench to go into the system, if you will. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let me give you a quick example. When I was little, my mom used to make cookies. Cookies. Not so much. My mom was pretty healthy. We'll use cookies as an example, though. And so she's got her little mixer going on in the bowl. She's mixing it up. And, the beaters are going. And what happens, metals in a cell or in the system are like this. So she's got it. She's going. And then she thinks, and then I say, I want to try just a little bit. So I take my spoon while she's not watching and she's still running the beater, and I'm about to stick in my metal spoon. Now, if any of you have ever stuck something into a beater while it's going, you know what can happen. So I was thinking of sticking that metal spoon in there, and just as I'm about to stick the metal spoon in there, Mom says, no, don't do that. Okay, why? Well, what will happen if the metal spoon gets caught in the beaters? Well, the little kid, I just want to try just a little bit of that cookie dough. So I kind of sneak around the edge while she's beating, and I'm just going to stick it in. And right then, wham! And it gets in the beater, and it caused the beater to stop. And then if she doesn't shut it off, what happens? The motor starts burning, and you can smell that burning electrical smell. That's what metals do in the system, as well as any other toxins in the system. And so the next I, so hopefully metals, you understand metals. Where do metals come from? Also, things that are in our mouths. We use mercury fillings in our mouth. Those can actually leach out and cause heavy metal damage throughout the cells of the body, throughout the entire body, both the mind and the body. Where else do metals come from? Metals can come from different things that we wear in cosmetics. For example, when women put lipstick on, in the US, we don't regulate how much lead is being put into lipstick. We're so concerned about lead in household paints, and when you paint, make sure that there's no lead. Yeah, but women are putting lipstick, and there's lead. I did a post a while back, about a year ago, about lead in the lipstick and in other cosmetics and other heavy metals. So be very aware of that. The next part of the Me, Can, Me, the I, would be infection. Infection. Many people will come in and I'll look in their mouth, and what I'll see is tonsils that are nearly what I call kissing tonsils. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that they've had infection in there for so long, they've never really got it out. They've used an antibiotic, but it's never really cleared out of the system completely. And so we'll see infections that sit there and harbor in the body. Another classic infection that just festers in the body. It's never really a big problem until maybe it breaks out on the skin, but is yeast or candida. For a woman, she'll say a yeast infection. If you've had a yeast infection and never properly taken care of it by proper diet, nutrition, and either supplementation or medicine, most times people only take the medicine, you've never gotten rid of it. It's still there. The other classic one I see will be strep in the throat that'll just lie dormant for long periods of time. Think about it like this as well. A virus oftentimes lies dormant. For example, like a cold sore. When a person gets stressed and worked up, then that cold sore manifests itself. Well, it's already in the body, it's already in the system, But until we actually get stressed, it manifests itself. So this is a classic area of toxicity, is infections. The way we get rid of toxins is appropriate elimination through diet, rest, yes, and some other things we'll talk about in our upcoming seminar. But infections is the next area. Homeopathy is another great way to get rid of those type of things like infections. So the next area would be chemicals. Now chemicals, I include chemicals are, wow, in our day and age of society, there are so many chemicals that we're taking in through our skin, which we'll talk about, through ingestion, through our food, water, all those type of things, but chemicals. Also our own hormones can be chemical toxicities. I'll just talk about one hormone in particular. The hormone is estrogen. We are swimming, we're just swimming in a sea of estrogens. The amount of estrogen is going up. Where is it coming from? Estrogens are bad estrogens, what we'll call xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens are showing up in plastics. So for example, when you go and microwave plastics, those plastics break off or break down, and then consequently we ingest those. Those are what we would call xenoestrogens. Those xenoestrogens cause real estrogen, so we'll have a real estrogen area that needs to be used or utilized. And what happens is the xenoestrogen, a bad estrogen, will block that receptor site or that estrogen receptor. So microwaving plastics, also pesticides and herbicides and those type of things will actually get into the system, and they will cause infertility. They'll cause men, which you've seen a lot of, what I say, from caveman chest, the caveman chest, to modern man breasts. So we're seeing a lot of young men actually go from testosterone dominant to estrogen dominant, where young men will actually have breasts. And this is a very big problem, as well as we're seeing now men who are having breasts as they age. A big part of that would be chemicals and xenoestrogen. So be very aware about that, as well as, again, I said those come from pesticides, BPAs, bisphenol A, and PCBs. Watch for that, chemicals. The next area, what I'm talking about, would be allergens. Now, historically, we thought of allergens as just coming from, airborne allergens. People will say, oh, I have hay fever in the fall, or I have hay fever in the spring. Now, what I'm talking about with allergens as well, usually is the food we're intaking. A common allergen that you'll start hearing more and more of would be dairy. A lot of people are lactose intolerant. But it's not just the lactose that is the problem. They're allergic to the casein or the whey, the protein. Why is that happening? Because of the way we are using animals to produce milk, in antibiotics, in using chemicals. See, because when we use chemicals in animals like fake hormones or hormones, then what happens is we take in the dairy and we start having an allergen to the hormone or to the product that is a byproduct, which is milk. Also, you'll see a big amount of allergens to gluten. Gluten is found in wheat, rye, and barley, and also it's found in other products that are produced on machinery that has been contaminated with those type of things. Sometimes you can find it in oats as well if it doesn't say gluten-free. I won't go into that. We do a whole seminar on gluten. It's pretty amazing what's happening to the American diet as we're ingesting hybridized and genetically modified foods. Sorry about that. So hybridized and genetically modified. We'll continue to see allergens skyrocket. You're going to see this more and more as time goes on. People are continually getting more allergic responses to foods. The next area I would put down would be metals, infection, chemicals. Allergens would be neurotoxins. So the neurotoxins are actually coming from things like mold, and spores that are happening. We'll see oftentimes after a flood. So in New Jersey, there was all that flooding. What will happen is there will be a lot of molds that will settle into the homes, and then people will have problems. Neurotoxins actually, I spelled that wrong incorrectly. So I put neutoxin. It's actually spelled neuro. Just in case you're wondering, neurotoxin. So the neurotoxins, also we'll see those come from spider bites, tick bites. They actually cause a toxicity in the central nervous system. And then over here we have the me. So why did I put that? Well, these are toxins, but what other toxins are there? And I've talked about this for some of you who already know, but mental. Some of the most toxic, the most toxic things to us, besides all of this, is our mental, our mind, our very mind. So I'll put mental. Our thoughts. You know, there are so many people with so many bad thoughts now. A lot of us. We all have bad thoughts. It's a matter of getting rid of them. These are toxic thoughts. Toxic thoughts that are destroying us. You know, the amount of suicide is going up. The amount of shootings are going up. The amount of all sorts of disasters are going up and up and up. Our mental. We need to be able to take control of what's going on mentally. And the last area in conjunction with that, which would be the window into our thoughts, is emotions. So emotional, so mental and emotional. And what happens is the thoughts, so the window to our thoughts would be emotions, but as well our emotions get trapped within inside of us. You know, they've actually done studies that shown that people with cancer can actually get that cancer, liver cancer, from anger, the emotion of anger. There's so much guilt in our society. There's so much anger and even hate. What about the emotions of love? What happened to that? What happened to the emotions of being friendly and kind and joyful? I see so much sadness going on. So being able to eliminate toxins, or this emotions can become a toxin. So where are all those coming from? Let's take a quick look. And we'll come back to the bucket. These are coming from what I call CD flaws. So you remember on CDs, we still use some CDs, but CDs you'll get a flaw in it, and then it'll kind of make the CD skip or scratch. So it's basically like a scratch. These are the things that we're actually ingesting that contain the meek in me. So the first one would be things that we come in contact with. So this is how we're contracting them, is things that we come in contact with. I talked about skin. We can also come in contact with an infection. We can come in contact with neurotoxins. So when we come in contact with certain toxins. Also, the D and CD flaws would be what we drink. Depending on what you drink. So, you know, if you drink something that has drugs in it, that will be a toxin. It can cause then an allergen, or it can cause a chemical reactivity. For example, drugs. So when we talk about drugs, or unnecessary drugs, or unnecessary antibiotics, per year there's a prescription rate of 45 million unnecessary antibiotic prescriptions per year. I didn't even talk about deaths per year. Did you know there's 800,000? We can't even fathom that. 800,000 deaths per year from conventional medicine. So again, back to things that we drink. Things that we drink can cause toxins. Now the next area would be F. That is our food. We could spend 2 days on food and what's going into our food, the way we're processing food, the way that the growers, the farmers are growing the food, the way that we are taking food that's already been in a can or a box. So many of us are going away from cooking our own meals. Oh, we don't have time. We need to prepare. So after food, then I would say where we live. They've done studies that have shown people didn't necessarily eat the right things or even drink the right things, but just where they lived caused them to be toxin free. And their society, where you live. Is it that you live in a culture of life and happiness and liberty? Or do you live in an area, do you live in a home that the people, your neighbors around you are toxic? Or do you live in a home in an area where people are loving and uplifting and building one another? And they walk around with a joyful presence. So where you live. The A stands for our air. You know, there's a report, if you look in Forbes magazine online, the 20 dirtiest cities. Now, there are several dirty cities, and some of the reasons why were because of pesticides and old chemical dumpings and petroleum. And they looked at air and water. Now, it was interesting to me that so many people think, oh, well, it's fine, all the water we're drinking. I did a lot of clinical research on analysis of water, and I don't remember one single person that ever came back without heavy metal toxicity in their bodies, and it was from the water that they were drinking. The last area then would be self. So I talked about where we live, which would be social, and then I talked about we create and we brew toxins in our body. And too often we just keep it there and let it fester, and we never eliminate. How do we eliminate? Well, I've already talked to you about doing the intense cleanse. That's the best way. Other ways of elimination is being able to eat appropriately. How do you do that? Well, think about how, I like to always say, how does a little baby eat? Not after they're done nursing. You know, they'll eat the organic chicken, the organic beans, the organic rice, the organic potatoes. And for dessert, they have a fruit blend. Organic pears with apples and peaches. I'm just saying. So the way we eat. Again, the people that we live around. So we take the things that we're coming in contact with and the people that we're coming in contact with, we need to detoxify. If there's people that are toxic in your life, I invite you to go ahead and detoxify from them. Take a break from that. You need a cleanse. So, this is our stress bucket here, as you can see. And this stress bucket, what happens is, we'll get a little bit stressed. Say we'll get some metals, some heavy metals into our system, and it'll fill up a little ways. And then we'll, maybe we won't eat so right over the holidays, and it'll fill up a little bit more. And then, we'll be around some people who maybe bring us down a little bit, and it'll fill a little bit more. And then we, maybe we'll hear some bad news. And next thing you know, we're overflowing. We're overflowing with toxins and with stress, and we cannot handle it any longer. We can't handle the allergens. So you're seeing these people with all of a sudden, they're sensitive and they have eczema or eczema. It's because their stress bucket can no longer handle the toxins. So my invitation is to you is to be able to detoxify. When do we start detoxifying? Today. Maybe you don't do it all at once. You know what a key way to help you detoxify? Exercise. Oh, whoever thought of that? Exercise, yeah. Go out and just be a little bit active. I recommend doing burst type training where you'll work or you'll exercise for 30 seconds as hard as you can, and then for 90 seconds you'll just walk or rest. Not rest, but just keep moving, just very slow. And then you'll exercise for 30 seconds as hard as you can, and then just gently walk. Now, I didn't explain that completely, but I hope you get the gist of it. You can look for it. It's called interval training or burst training. There's another one called peak performance training. Look for those type of trainings, and I recommend doing that 3 times a week. How do we start eating? We start eating like a baby. We start eating healthy food, the foods that we know that we should really eat, and really cutting back, just cutting back on the portion sizes. This will actually help you eliminate toxicities as well. And then the last thing that I'm going to give you a key, this is a very key. I'm wearing green if you notice. Okay? If you can start eating more greens, naturally you'll start to detoxify. If you can start eating more greens, naturally you'll start to detoxify. Not just wearing the greens, but actually eating the greens. I look forward to you on seeing on the next video. Yes, the next video. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say to you, a very, very, very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Since I can't give you a big Merry Christmas hug, Merry Christmas to you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. I am Dr. Nilsson. Merry Christmas, and remember this, live in fullness every day.